I know. Hey everyone, it's Camille Walker with MyMommyStyle, and I'm here today with my good friend Lynn from Too Fit at Home.
Hey guys.
And we are going to give you guys some amazing tips on myths and debunking weight gain myths, especially for women, because Lynn is a woman expert.
I'm a women's fitness expert, and some of the biggest myths actually in the industry all revolve around women, and it drives me crazy, especially since actually a lot of the stats and figures and studies that you'll read on most fitness regimens and most weight loss programs have to do with men, right? They actually use predominantly men to show, hey, this is very successful, when really our bodies, surprise, surprise, are so different when it comes to weight loss.
I so agree with that. So much of marketing, the way it's written, is geared to men, even products. And I feel like now more than ever with the information age, we're finally able to tackle these issues of things that we never had access to before.
Yes, yes.
So I'm so glad that you're here sharing it with us.
Thank
and
you.
if you're just watching this now, please chime in, tell us where you're watching from, and share this to your page so that if for some reason you can't watch through the entirety of this episode with us, you can go back and watch it on your wall and see it later, because you will not want to miss all of these amazing tips.
Yeah, and feel free to leave any comments that you have or any questions that you have. Usually when I do lives about different myths involved with women and our fitness regimen, it can get into pretty deep detail, especially when I talk about our female hormones and how that can affect our weight loss. And I know that you might have additional questions, and I'm happy to come on later. So when I get home later tonight, I'll jump on this Facebook Live and I'll respond to each of your individual questions, especially if you know you have hormonal imbalances such as PCOS or an autoimmune disease or something that you have any more detailed questions specifically for you.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
And it looks like we have some of our friends jumping on, and I have some friends also that are fitness coaches, and we have Megan from Las Vegas, Jessica is here. Chime in and say hi. We're so glad that you're here. And we want to know just right up front, what myths do you believe or have you heard that you have questions about, or you may not know if it's a myth or not? And that kind of takes us into cardio versus weight training. I think that is a perfect start, because that's something you hear debate all the time.
Yes.
About what's best for us, how much versus how many days, and all of those things.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And a big thing to remember too is when it comes to exercise routines, I focus a lot more on the nutrition component, because I focus so much on women specific, like hormones and things that affect our hormones as women. And so with exercise, I try to be a lot more relaxed, realizing that what works for one woman isn't necessarily going to work for another woman. And anyone that tells you otherwise is simply not being honest in the industry. And so if you love to Zumba, Zumba. If you love to hike, hike. If you love to skate, skate. I'm saying all the things that I love to do. But if you get what I'm saying, if you love to lift weights, lift weights. And so for example, I know women that love to run. They love to run, and that's okay. You can definitely run. What's interesting though is a lot of times I think women focus so much on doing cardio because they think lifting weights will make them gain weight, lifting weights will make them bulkier, cardio movements will help them lose weight faster. And there's a little bit of truth to this, and this is why I think this gets perpetuated so much in the industry. And then there's some points that I think women really need to hone in on. And these are some of the things that I talk about with my clients. So in general, while you're exercising, doing cardio, you do burn more calories. And I think that's why so many women want to do these fast-paced exercises or cardio movements over going to the gym and lifting weights. Because in that designated period of time, you are burning more calories doing the cardio. But what you don't realize is the significance of building muscle. Not only, and I always like to point out not just the weight benefit, because I hate that as women we focus so much on weight, but also the health benefit. As we're lifting weights and we're improving our bone density, we're preventing things like osteoporosis, which is going to affect like 80% of us. And I know some of us might be in a demographic where we're like, oh, arthritis, osteoporosis, things like that don't affect me because I'm in my late 20s or early 30s or even early 40s, but it will affect us at some point. So lifting weights helps us from a health perspective, but additionally, it actually helps us not only tone, which is a lot of what we want, right? We lose weight, but then we're like, well, we want the shape.
Right.
We want to have
the booty, because the booty is in.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of women, when they're just doing cardio, they're like, I lost weight, now I feel like my butt is flat, or I feel like my body's flat. And weight training is actually going to help you sculpt your body. But in addition, what's even more important for long-term weight loss, and this is why I say cardio is a myth, because people will think I'll lose more weight, is long-term you have to realize that cardio, as you're losing weight, your resting metabolic rate, so the amount of calories, for those that haven't heard of a metabolic rate or your resting metabolic rate, is you burn a certain amount of calories per day. And that's just even if you don't do any sort of exercise. That's even if you just laid in bed. And that number differs depending on your age, your height, your current weight. All of that affects your resting metabolic rate. But 1 pound of fat burns about 6 calories for you a day. So every pound of fat on your body is actually burning calories for you. See, look, your fat's doing some good.
Yay!
But 1 pound of muscle burns 60. So 10 times the amount. And so
that's interesting.
It's really right. And so a lot of people will wonder, why does my friend that's been going to the gym and lifting weights, why does it seem like she can eat so much more? And you have to realize her metabolic rate, her metabolism is revved up from her muscle. So let's say, for example, you were to build 5 pounds of muscle. And that does take work, by the way. I think a lot of times we've already debunked that women lifting weights will make us bulky because it's hard to put on muscle. But 5 pounds of muscle means you can eat 300 more calories and just stay consistent. So if you're doing all this cardio and you lose all this weight, your resting metabolic rate is actually going down because that fat that you lost was actually burning a little bit for you each day. And that might be why a year from now you may be thinking, I'm eating what I used to and I'm exercising like I used to, but I'm not losing weight or I'm staying the same. It's because your metabolism's down. Put on some muscle, do a little bit of weight training, and that metabolism will go back up.
That's so interesting. Yeah. And we had a comment that came in for someone saying, what about the 80-20 where it's 80% in the kitchen, 20% what you do in the gym? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree. And that's why I focus more on nutrition up front. And that's why I said, if you love what you're doing exercise-wise, do it. But a lot of times I know people that are, for example, are like, I don't really like doing this exercise, but I know cardio burns more calories and I want to lose weight. I'm like, trust me, losing weight has way less to do with the exercise you're doing and definitely more to do with your nutrition and to do with your hormones. But when it comes to exercise, I do suggest that if you can incorporate even 2 times a week, any sort of weight training for your health and also to build up muscle, to boost your metabolism, you're going to be so much happier in the long run.
Nice.
So
I'm going to share this really quick.
Sure.
Because this is... You can keep going on.
Oh, okay, awesome.
There was a few other questions that came in if you want to
see them. Sure. I would love to answer your guys' questions. And again, if we don't get to them during the live, I will 100% jump on when I get home later tonight and make sure to answer your questions. I want to make sure every woman gets responded to. So the second myth we wanted to talk about, and this is still a common one that I think most of us, and I even fell into this trap before I had my training, was I thought sweat means we're working harder and we're burning more calories. So the more we sweat, the better the workout, right? And I think we've all, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we all at some point have felt that, right? We come out of a workout, we're drenched in sweat, and we're like, yes, I really killed it because I sweat so much. But what you don't realize is just because you're sweating doesn't actually mean you're burning more calories. Sweat is simply your body's way of cooling down your body temperature. And when you're sweating, I know there's that meme that goes around that people love, which is, what is it? Sweat is your fat crying, or sweat is fat crying, something along those lines.
Yes.
Sweat is actually not fat loss, it's water loss. So you're losing more water in your body, which actually just means if you're sweating more during your workout, you need to be drinking more water. And unfortunately, it doesn't mean you had a better workout. So that's a common one. So if you're doing a workout you love and you're feeling improvement, but you're like, you know what, I don't sweat a lot. Or say you're lifting weights and you're like, I'm not sweating a lot, so I must not be working hard enough, or it may not be benefiting me. That's simply not true. So don't focus on if you're sweating or not to do with if your workout was good. If you feel like you had a quality workout and if you enjoyed what you did, you're nailing it, okay? So the next thing we wanted to talk about was actually, it has to do with sleep, which is like my favorite topic. Because as a mom, I feel like we all need to sleep more. And when people ask me what my favorite thing to do is, it's usually to sleep. So a lot of my clients come to me, and most of them are moms, as I'm sure you guys are as well, or most of you are. And a common thing that I get is, you know what I'm going to do, because I'm so, especially this time of year when we're going into the new year and everyone's focused on their goals, they're like, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. and I'm going to get in that workout before my kids get up. And the problem with that is, not all of the time, but most of the time, you're not getting enough sleep. And what you don't realize is when you're not getting enough sleep, you're gaining weight. So with most of my clients, when I try to go over when they're like, this isn't working or I'm not losing any weight, and I ask them a detailed routine of what they're doing, if they say they're getting up at 5, 6 a.m. and they're getting 5, 6 hours of sleep, I tell them skip your workout and sleep. And I know that might seem counterproductive, like, Lynn, you're telling me not to work out? Yeah, I'm telling you, if you can choose between sleep and working out, you will lose more weight generally.
This is making me so happy, by the way.
I know, right? Like, yes, you really will lose more weight generally by sleeping in. Now, that's not the case if you're getting a good 7, 8 hours of sleep a night, which, I mean, that means your kids are much older, right? But if you're not getting enough sleep, sleep is so important. What you don't realize is when you're not getting enough sleep, it upsets your hormone levels called ghrelin. And ghrelin functions in regulating your appetite. And so when your ghrelin levels are askew because you didn't get enough sleep, not only are you hungrier, statistically hungrier, this is what's terrible. It makes you crave more sugar.
And so tell me how that works, because if we're not getting sleep, why would that lead to more sugar?
Okay, so...
I mean, other than being like, give me some ice cream at night, I'm going to die, I'm so tired, because I do that.
Which I actually was eating ice cream last night. So what happens is, it's a hormone. So there's hormones in our bodies that help regulate different things. And we'll talk a little bit more about different hormones, like we could talk about serotonin and cortisol levels and estrogen and testosterone. But ghrelin is a hormone that is affected by sleep. So when we don't get enough sleep and it revs up, what it does is it makes it so our body's appetite control center is off. Okay. So then we're hungrier. So literally just physiologically, your body will say to you, Camille, I'm starving. And you'll think, I just ate. And it'll be like, I don't care. And it makes it so you crave more sugary spikes, because that's when you get an energy surge, right? Is when you have that sugar. You get, now of course you get the crash, which then your body is like, please eat more sugar. And so sleep is so important. I cannot stress that enough with my clients. We could probably do a whole live just on the importance of sleep.
I feel like your body is trying to recover from having a baby, or even in those that first year, it's just a roller coaster of craziness.
And so for new moms, a lot of times what I talk about, because I can understand how it feels defeating for me to say this, because I know so many of you might be new moms and thinking, I would love to get consistent sleep. I would love to get 7 hours, but I literally can't. Does that just mean I'm screwed? No, it doesn't mean that, you know, everything, you know, throw caution to the wind, you may as well eat the whole cake. It simply means you need to put sleep as a priority, and maybe you do minimal or no exercise while you're focusing on recovery and taking care of your baby and getting more rest, and instead putting a lot more focus on nutrition and hormone health, because that's going to help you with your health goals and your weight loss goals far more than getting up to do that extra exercise. So,
and get out for walks, because I feel like it's so good for your mental health to get out for a walk, for your body and for the baby. Like, it's just
not to mention for vitamin D. Do you know, like, over 70% of women are vitamin D deficient, and that affects weight loss, it affects your mood. And so I always tell all my clients, go get at any store, because the quality of the D vitamins aren't, some vitamins are superior to others. Vitamin D3 is pretty same across the board. And so go get a vitamin D3. It is fat soluble, so it means you need to take it while you're eating some fat. So maybe you're having some eggs or bacon, and then you have your vitamin D3. But that actually will help with mood and weight loss as well, and it's something almost all women are deficient in. So.
Yeah, that's smart. So Laura was saying, I'd love to know how to shrink my lovely C-section flap, for lack of better terms. And we were talking about the midsection. And
we were.
How do we work with that?
Yeah. So this might be a two-part question, because something that you might be experiencing is just, I don't know how long ago you had your baby. You could also, I don't know if you've looked into if you have diastasis recti, and if you need to fix that, you can Google information on that to test yourself. Yeah, my friend Natalie has an amazing program called Abs, Core, and Pelvic Floor, which helps to heal diastasis recti if you have that. But in general, if you just find that you're gaining weight in the midsection and you're wondering why, ladies, you're not crazy. Okay, what we don't realize, and this is a perfect one for the holidays, because some of you may love the holidays and feel like you're at the top of your game during your holidays, or you might be like me and feel a little bit like the Grinch, and your stress levels might be through the roof, and you might be running around like, I can't get all my shopping done, and I have all these holiday parties, I'm supposed to bake cookies for school.
And or maybe around in-laws who don't enjoy. That isn't me. But that's a very common thing. I actually wrote about that recently with depression and stress for the holidays. A lot of times it's stressful situations for people.
And what happens is when we're stressed, we release a hormone called, well, we have this hormone in general, but the hormone level of cortisol increases. So cortisol is known as the stress-induced hormone. We all have it. Our levels are higher in the morning. It's our get up and go hormone. And so when we actually want higher levels right in the morning to help us get out of bed and get going for the day. But what happens is if our cortisol levels are elevated high throughout the day, it actually makes it so we retain visceral fat, specifically in our midsection. So that's fat like underneath the surface, like narrow organs. It's the really bad fat. And it's in our midsection. So a lot of women I know will be like, it's weird. And don't get me wrong, I think every woman that's had children.
She said it's been 6 years.
6 years?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I will say that if it's been 6 years, and depending on what you're talking about, if it's not actually skin, and if it is actually just more like a bulge, that is diastasis recti. But if you feel like you're just actually retaining more fat in that area, it could be hormonal. A lot of my clients, when we have hormonal issues, which is more common than not, we do tend to gain weight specifically in our midsection. So
Yuck.
the key is to reduce cortisol levels.
Reducing that stress can actually help us reduce our midsection weight gain.
Yes. Yeah, and actually not only reducing cortisol levels, which is stress-induced, so reducing our stress. I remember my first response.
So that doesn't help with stress eating.
No, no. And it made me laugh because I remember when my doctor, the reason why I know a lot about this isn't just because I'm a women's fitness specialist. It's because I went through my own hormonal imbalance. I was completely off. And I remember saying to my doctor when she's like, you really need to reduce the stress. I was like, you live my life. You know, you come take care of my kids and run my business and deal with everything and at the time I was dealing with a divorce and it was so much stress that I was like, are you kidding me? But what you also don't realize is there's certain foods that can help so that it can reduce your cortisol levels. There's certain things you shouldn't do. Like for example, if you're waking up in the morning and you like coffee, like I do, that's actually terrible on your cortisol levels and on your adrenal glands. So if you know you have high cortisol levels, unfortunately, you need to wait 2 to 3 hours to have your caffeine. And also if you can have it with a protein, that will help your cortisol levels. So there's definitely tips that you can do to help those cortisol levels, to help with the midsection, that don't involve just taking out the stress, but obviously reducing stress is helpful for overall health.
That's a really good tip. So just a side note, this isn't one of the tips we were talking about, but what do you think are the best breakfast items to start your day? I feel like I start the day so well, and even lunch, and then it gets to like dinner and like late at night, and I'm like,
oh my gosh, that was
good.
That was me yesterday. I'm not gonna lie, you guys. Yesterday I was eating so healthy, and then I had a really stressful day. And I ate at night. I had like 3 pieces of pizza and several breadsticks, and then I finished it with a container of Taylor Top ice cream. I was like, I'm having a stress eating day.
See, but here's the thing. I took nutrition classes in college, and the dietitian said never trust a dietitian or a nutritionist who doesn't eat ice cream.
I agree.
It's okay to have a balance, and we have those stressful, stress eating days.
Yeah.
So
and what's crazy is I mean this, like, I feel bad that, I don't really feel bad, but it's kind of sad that I'm at this place when I know so many other women are struggling. But I can do that and not gain weight because my overall nutrition is well, and more importantly, because my hormones are now balanced. When my hormones were imbalanced, I could look at a cookie and gain weight, you know, or I couldn't have the pizza and not wake up the next day and be like, I'm 5 pounds heavier. Yeah. So it's like, I understand that, but it's crazy that as women, if we're doing what's best for our female body, in general, you won't gain weight from having those small bouts of eating the container of ice cream or having pizza because it's a kid's party or because you're like me and you were stress eating.
And that's something I feel like you can take advantage of when you're younger, but it's as we get older that things change.
Because as we get older, our hormones change.
Which I wish my sister was watching right now. We talk about this all of the time because she's 8 years older than I am, and she goes through a lot of changes and things before me. So I'm like, figure this out and then let's talk.
Exactly.
But this is something we've talked about a lot.
It is.
So in that scenario, what do you think is a good way to start your day and get through it so that you're not like all the things?
Yeah. Well, I will say one of the most important things and one of the myths that we can actually kind of tie into this is a lot of diets out there cut out entire macronutrient groups. So everything we eat falls into these 3 macronutrients: proteins, carbs, and fats. I'm not sure if many of you listening have heard about that, but for example, a lot of people will be like, I'm going to eat a low-carb diet, or I'm going to cut out carbs completely to go into ketosis. And there's different health benefits, and I've tried almost every nutrition plan just so that I knew what it felt like, and so I could talk to my clients about it. So I've done keto. I'm not slamming the keto diet in any way. It's just, as a woman, and especially for hormonal health, cutting out any macronutrient is usually counterintuitive. And we talked a little bit about this before, where our bodies are designed so differently from men. Our bodies are designed to bear children. And whether you've had children or not, our bodies are still physiologically and hormonally designed for that. And anytime there's a stress response, and let me tell you, our body doesn't know the difference between a lion chasing us and a stress response in our body.
Or a 2-year-old chasing us.
Or a 2-year-old chasing us.
Exactly.
Or us chasing after a 2-year-old who's running into the street. We're darting for dear life. Yeah. Our body can't tell the difference between that type of stress and the stress from certain foods, the inflammation in our body, or the stress from over-exercising, or the stress from cutting calories, or the stress, and this is a big one, from cutting out meals or certain macronutrients.
Interesting.
And so a huge problem that I come into contact when I'm working with clients is trying to tear apart their layers of these myths of me being like, you should be eating carbs. And they're like, no, I should not be eating carbs. Carbs are going to make me fat. And they're like, or I'm going to skip breakfast. You know, I'm doing intermittent fasting, so I'm skipping breakfast entirely. I just have a little bit of tea or coffee, and then I'm good till lunchtime. Not all the time, but most of the time, especially if a woman's had children or she's in her 30s or above, like I am, then it creates a stress response in our body, and that askews our hormones, which affect our insulin levels, which affect inflammation, which affect weight gain. And so breakfast is so important. I wanted to say that because a lot of women skip breakfast. Or a lot of women have tiny itty bitty breakfasts, or a lot of women think, I don't need carbs in my breakfast. And that is generally a poor way to start your day. So in general, I mean, you can eat whatever you really enjoy, but I would say have a protein, carb, and fat in there. So for me, it might look like I'm having eggs with avocado and a bunch of berries, or a little bit of toast. Okay, so something that's pretty balanced, where I'm having a protein, a carb, and a fat. And what you have for your carbs, now, I don't mean that we should have a ton of sugar. Sugar is, it's classified as a carb. And I don't mean you need to have pasta at breakfast. I mean a quality carbohydrate. Even if you want to have potatoes. So a lot of times I'll have like potatoes and vegetables with 2 runny eggs over it and some avocado. That's like an amazing breakfast.
That does sound amazing.
Yeah, and it's going to keep you level throughout the day. So when we have too much sugar, like if you just had a bowl of cereal at breakfast, it will spike your insulin levels, which, I mean, I can tell you the whole science behind it, but also that makes you store fat. But then you have the crash, right? So then you're hungry again. Right. So we don't want that. And we don't want only protein, because then we're not getting the energy we need from the carbs to keep us through until lunch. Normally you'll be too hungry too. Yeah. And that's when like you're forcing yourself. So then come lunch, you're like, I'm only going to eat a salad. I'm going to dip my dressing. I'm going to do it. And then come dinner and your body is like, I need fuel. Yeah. I need energy. And that's why you're eating so poorly at night.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Balanced.
So Inez wants to know, why don't we know the difference between the types of stress our body?
That's a really great question, and I don't know why our bodies can't tell the difference. They just show our bodies physiologically does not differentiate between what type of stress. So if you have stress in your marriage, if you have stress with your kids, if you have stress from skipping meals, if you have stress from being in a life and death situation, physiologically what happens chemically in our body is the same. It's basically just a stress response. Your body's not going to be like, oh, it's okay, she's skipping breakfast, and that's kind of stressful on our body.
She's doing intermittent fasting, everyone.
Yeah,
so calm down. We're not in starvation.
Yeah, we're not in starvation. Right? You're fine. Our bodies do not differentiate between that. It just shows. And a common thing, we talked a little bit about this before too, is a lot of times we're over-exercising and our periods are becoming irregular, or we're missing them completely, and we're thinking to ourselves, hey body, get with the routine. I'm just exercising. I'm treating you good. I'm being active, and I feel good. Right. Physiologically, your body's creating a stress response, and that's why your periods are irregular. That's why you're skipping your period. It doesn't matter to your body. Unfortunately, we can't talk to it and be like, let me tell you the pros and cons of this.
So what do you think with the thyroid and getting your hormones checked? Like, when is a time that you need to, ideally anytime, but I feel like we, especially in the Western culture, aren't educated with stress and hormones and those
oh my gosh.
functions in our body.
Yes.
We just don't know. Like,
yes.
So how do we access
yes.
that? And a lot of times it's really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
talk me through that. Like, what is the first and best step for getting in that place?
Man, that is a long question. I'm going to try to answer it as best as I can. I will say this. Trust your intuition. I think the most frustrating thing for me is years ago when I was going through a hormonal imbalance, I didn't know that's what it was. And in fact, I went to see a doctor because I was just feeling what I call off. And a lot of women, you may understand what I'm saying here, right? When you're just feeling like there's something different, you don't feel the same. And unfortunately, and this is one of the myths that I wrote down, so it's perfect, a lot of doctors will just be like, this is normal. You're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, you've had kids. Like, it's normal to be tired. It's normal to have extreme fatigue. It's normal for you to be losing your hair, or it's normal for you to be having restless sleep, or it's normal for you to be gaining weight. You're a mom now. And I fell into that thinking, well, this is what a doctor said. And my doctor even went as far, because I was like, I'm really feeling off. He's like, oh, I think you're bipolar. And I was like, whoa. I was like, okay. He didn't test for anything. He literally just diagnosed me, wrote out some prescription meds. And luckily, I didn't end up taking them. I was reading the labels, crying, you know, those labels that they give you, the warning labels. And I was like, these side effects are worse than how I'm feeling. And I was like, I need to get a second opinion.
Yeah.
And luckily I kind of had a hunch, like something's off physiologically. Maybe it's my hormones. Luckily, I had enough background to think of that. And I went to a hormone specialist. And luckily, she, within talking to me for an hour, was like, your hormones are completely off. Like, you have all the symptoms. And that's the number one thing that I would encourage all women. If you feel like there's something off, trust your instincts, trust your intuition. If you're having symptoms like your hair is falling out, your skin is way more dry than normal, your libido is completely off, so you have no more sex drive, if you're gaining weight even though you're eating healthy or exercising, if you're not sleeping well, if you're having crazy afternoon fatigue, 2, 3 o'clock, you feel like you could take a nap at your desk, all of those are actually symptoms of a hormonal imbalance, and as a society, we have allowed it to be the norm. And that's so frustrating for me because I hate when I hear women going through that, and I want to be like, you don't have to live like this. You don't.
Yeah, because all those things you just listed, I've heard a million times. Oh, that's normal. Like, your hair, normal. You always lose hair after you have a baby, or you always will be tired and want to take. I can take a nap right now.
I could sleep sitting up, which I've actually done. And don't get me wrong, there's certain side effects from having young children. When you're not getting sleep, of course you're going to be tired. If you're waking up every 2 hours to breastfeed, of course you're exhausted. But it's really not the norm. And what I had learned later, and this is not to knock doctors or physicians in any way. I've had some of the most amazing physicians help me in my lifetime. But what I learned later was that most of the doctors that I knew were letting me know, hey, just so you know, we're really not experts in this field. Just so you know, we only have 6 weeks that we even talk about nutrition when we're doctors. And that in the long scheme of the years of being a doctor, that's such a minute amount. And when they're teaching it, they're not really correlating it to everything like, this is nutrition to help you balance your hormones. Really
women specific.
Or women specific. And so really the amount of knowledge that they have is so small. And when they do just do blood tests to find out what's wrong with you, they aren't counseled in changing your nutrition plan. Just like my sister that has type 2 diabetes was given insulin and metformin, she wasn't told, hey, this is reversible if you do X, Y, and Z. So especially in Western medicine, what happens is we go in, and hopefully if you're feeling off, we get tested. A lot of times the tests, you might be at the very bottom of what they consider the green zone, and they'll be like, you're fine. Even though, so let's say the zone's between 2 and 50 and you're a 2, that means you're still a 2. You should hopefully have a doctor that will help you get up to like mid-range 25, but we don't. They'll just be like, are you in the zone? And if you're not, they give you a prescription. And I'm not knocking prescriptions, but when I found out I was hormonally imbalanced, I wanted to do it naturally because I was like, we're not fixing the root issue. One of the best analogies that I heard of Western medicine is this. I have a rock in my shoe, right? And I have a lot of pain in my foot. And so I go to a Western doctor, and instead of fixing the root problem, the rock, he's like, let's cut a hole in your foot so the rock will fit snug, and so you don't feel as much pain. So unfortunately, if my hormones are off and a doctor gives me meds, what is it doing? It's just masking the problem. It's not eliminating what's causing the hormonal imbalance. Because we can keep trying to bring it back in the middle, but my body keeps pushing the hormonal problem because I'm not fixing the root cause.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So my short answer, my short long answer
Yeah.
is if you feel like something's off, it probably is. It's great to get tested if you can. Go to a hormone specialist or go to your physician and ask for a hormone blood panel, which if you save this video on your timeline, you can rewatch this part. Ask to test your estrogen, your testosterone, your progesterone, your T3 and T4 thyroid levels, your cortisol, and your adrenal glands. And those would really give you a glimpse as to if your body hormonally is balanced. And after that, you need to work with either a specialist, a nutritionist, or do a hormone balancing program to really fix the issue, not mask the issue.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
I
And
feel like
Janae, my sister, just joined us. Hi, Janae.
Hey.
Hey, Christine. Thanks for checking in. So we're talking about myths for those of you who are just popping in. Looks like there's some that have just joined us. Myths about weight gain for women and fitness myths. Mm-hmm. So I think we've made it through.
I know, we've done a lot.
So we talked about waking up early. What about crunches for that midsection?
Oh yeah, so this was just a real quick blip because we already talked about cortisol levels.
Yes.
So that was one of the things I wanted to mention. So a lot of women will be doing a ton of ab and core exercises in order to try to get that flat stomach and to get those abs popping through. And hopefully you guys have heard over the years how nutrition is really the component of getting that flat stomach or being able to see your abs. Doing ab work, doing core work is great because it's going to help your back as well. But doing ab work is really just strengthening the muscle, but actually seeing any definition in your stomach is all to do with nutrition. And I had put in my notes, but we already talked about it, is remembering that high cortisol levels, that stress-induced hormone, is specifically making you retain weight in your belly region. So no matter how many crunches you do, you're not going to get the stomach you want.
So best case scenario, what would you say for weight training versus cardio? Like what ratio during a given week?
If I were to do, so I like to, of course, focus more on it. And most people that have followed me for a long time
like
realize
Tabata.
Well, I do something that's like high intense interval training because that's also better for your hormones.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I would suggest something like a Tabata or high intensity interval training, so like a 15-minute intense workout. I would recommend mixing cardio and weight training if possible. So maybe like 2 to 3 days of weight training and about 2 to maybe max 3 days of cardio. I would not, and squeezing that into like 5 days. So maybe doing a little bit of weight training followed by a little bit of cardio post. But also remembering, again, because in my opinion, even though exercise is great, it's such a small component to our overall health, is if there's something you love doing, do it. If you love to do yoga, do it. If you love to weight train, do it. If you love to spin bike, do it. So make sure you're just doing something that you love, because all the studies and research I've done has shown if you're doing what you love, you'll continue it.
That makes sense.
Since exercise is such a small component of your overall health, I would say to do anything that you love. But if you want to maximize, then yeah, about 2 to 3 days of weight training mixed in with 2 to 3 days of cardio.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah.
So here's my other question.
Okay.
If you're telling women not to wake up and do it early, when are you suggesting they do it? Because it feels impossible.
It does. It
With
totally
little
feels
kids at
impossible.
home, I'm like, unless I am waking up early or perhaps doing it late at night, sometimes I can squeeze it in at the nap time, but that can be more inconsistent. So
Yes.
what do you suggest?
Oh man, so I've done the whole realm of it because I have 2 kids too, so I've obviously had babies and like that stage, what did I do? And it's different. So if you're getting 8 hours of sleep, then great, wake up early. And don't get me wrong, I pretty much go to bed at 10 o'clock every night now.
Earlier.
So if I go to bed at 10, then I will wake up at 5:30 or 6 to do a workout, and that's fine because my body's gotten a full at least 7 hours of consistent good rest. If not, what I did when my kids were little, I would just work out with them. And I know it seems like a hassle, and I know that doesn't sound fun, and I know sometimes you have to stop or they climb on you. I just kind of embraced it.
Just let it be crazy.
Yeah, I just let it be crazy. I just let my kids go crazy around me. They started like working out with me or jumping in to do it.
Oh my gosh, your kids are doing push-ups by like 2.
Yeah, they were. I know, they still do. My daughter is like,
awesome.
She's like seriously a crazy monkey now. She can climb the whole wall at like a CrossFit gym. And she's just like all the way up to the top. And I'm like, I'm too scared to do that.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But I do that, or sometimes I would do it during their nap time. I would rarely do it at night just because I just felt like for me and my body, I didn't feel good working out at night. So do whatever works best for you. If you want to put your kids to bed and it feels good to work out at night, that's totally fine. There's a lot of myths that have gone around about whether or not it's better to work out in the morning at night, and the truth is it's better to do it whenever you're willing to do it.
That you love and that you keep doing it.
Yeah.
So what about eating fat makes us fat? That's a big thing right now.
That is a big thing. A big thing is people caring about fat, low fat, or most of those prepackaged 100-calorie foods that you see, like it's only 100 calories are low fat. And so you just think, oh, this is so good for me. And hopefully there's been a lot of information that's come out in the past couple of years talking about how when this movement was big in the 80s, that fat makes us fat, that it was actually false, and that a lot of these researchers were paid off. It's awful to know that. But the saying that I like to remind my clients is fat on your lips doesn't equal fat on your hips. And so it's not fat that makes us gain fat, it's actually sugar that makes us gain weight. And another big thing to know is don't trust marketing. This infuriates me because a lot of people don't even realize how sketchy marketing can be out there with all the labels of gluten-free or fat-free or this or that. And so we think like, oh, it's good for me or it's healthy, but what you don't realize,
like, oh, this must be good.
Yeah, but like a lot of people don't realize things like the FDA is allowed to be off by 20% on all facts. And so when you're reading a macronutrient label and you're tracking your calories and you're tracking your macros and you think you're nailing it, it could be off. Because if they allow a leeway of 20%, let's be honest, most people are lying to make it look like it's less calories. This is really only 100 calories when really it's not. Or this only has X amount of fat grams when it's really not. So just be really careful of marketing and instead focus on just better quality foods, realizing most of the time if you're buying higher quality,
like from avocado, coconut,
nuts, seeds, yep, all those things are great. All those things are great, and also just realizing like it's not. I don't count macros. I don't count how much fat, protein, and carb that I eat. I intuitively eat, and some days I do feel like my body needs more carbs, and so I eat more quality carbs. Or like I'll be like, okay, I seem to have a crazy carb craving, so I'm going to eat a lot more like potatoes or something today. I'm going to eat a lot more vegetables, which yes is a carb, or a lot more fruits, which yes are carbs. And so focusing on the quality of your food instead of the quantity and cutting out specific food groups is always the best way to go.
I've always thought that it takes a lot of, if we're hungry and we stop to think, what should I be eating? Like the things I need to get into my body. If you actually ate those things, you wouldn't be hungry anymore. Yeah. Because often it's that choice of like, well, I should be eating this, and then your body is so much more satisfied.
Yeah, a lot of times what it is too is that our bodies crave what we're lacking, right? So you might be thinking, oh, I'm craving this, when really your body might need more salt. Especially if you're eating healthy, a lot of people don't have enough salt in their diet. Or, your body craves what it needs. Maybe you are low in carbs and you've been working out and you need more glucose, so more energy for your body. And so I think we focus so much on, I can't eat this, that it causes eating disorders, it causes
mental issues.
It causes stress, it causes mental issues, it causes hormone imbalances, because not only from our stress, but again, cutting out complete food groups can cause stress within the body. And then we don't get the results we want and we're frustrated. I'm working so hard, I cut out all my carbs,
So side note on that, what do you think a really good first step is for someone that's watching that may want to start intuitively eating more? What's a good first step for that? Because I have read or heard, drink water before eating your food so that you know really how hungry you are and not that you're thirsty.
And you want to drink water actually not during your meal and not right before the meal, but maybe 20 or 30 minutes before a meal, because actually if drinking too much water during or right before your meal actually can cause digestive issues. Some people will be like, why did I feel like and bloated now? And it's actually because like our bodies produce natural enzymes for us to digest food, and when we're diluting it with all that water right when we're eating, we might not be digesting quite as well. So if you're feeling like, I'm drinking all this water but I'm feeling and bloated, it's probably when you're drinking it. So maybe like if you're going to be having lunch with friends around noon, around like 11:30, load up on drinking a bunch of water. It's great for your health, it's great for your metabolism and your skin and your digestion. And then during your meal, actually don't drink a ton of water, just sip a little bit on that so that your body can naturally digest and use those those digestive enzymes that you produce to help you with your digestion. But intuitively eating. So this can evolve. Like, I've been doing it for years now, so I really like what I would do is not what I'd recommend you do. But in the beginning, what I would suggest is actually trying to don't count calories and don't even count macros of how much proteins, carbs, or fats you're using. Just instead cut out packaged foods for a few weeks, okay? So no
That's a good
processed junk. And because of that, when it's like, oh, I'm feeling like eating strawberries or vegetables or meat or, you know, potatoes or whatever, you're not starving yourself. You're eating as much as your body wants, but it's also helping you kind of detoxify, because what we don't realize, yes, our liver helps our body detox, but what we don't realize is if our body is inflamed, the rest of our organs are working towards that we can't efficiently work, right? We're like a well-oiled machine, and a lot of us have inflammation in our body due to too much sugar, and then that can make it so the rest of our organs aren't functioning optimally. So when you start a new diet, you're like, why are my cravings so bad? Your body's like detoxifying. So give it a couple of weeks of eating just clean and not eating anything in a package, but eating whatever you want that's not in a package. And then you should start to feel like it regulates more. And then you'll be like, oh, I'm craving more carbs, or oh, I feel like a big steak, or oh, I feel like a ton of fruit and salad. Like, your body will naturally kind of like regulate. And then sometimes my body just wants pizza and ice cream like last night.
I think that's true though, because kids, in my nutrition class again, there was research done with children where they were given plates of food and there was pudding on their plates, and some of the pudding was more calorie dense than others. And children intuitively eat where if it was more calorie dense, the kids might take one little bite and that was good. If it was less calorie dense, they might eat a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And adults, whether or not they had the more calorie dense or not, they would just eat it. Mm-hmm. And I think that, and then they talked about how, you know, we kind of learn to suppress our own intuition.
Yeah, we do.
And we just overeat because it's what we get used to. And
I
thought that was so interesting.
I call it mommy zombie mode too. A lot of what we do is just, I'm like going through the motions and we're not present. Being present when you eat is a big factor in not overeating, not stress eating, and intuitively eating. So I'm glad that you said that, because it just triggered, like, one of the big things I had to remember is when I was eating and I wanted to start intuitively eating, I didn't look at my phone and I didn't have a conversation with someone. I literally ate. And by sitting there and being present and chewing and tasting and eating, I realized, oh, I'm full. But when I'm scrolling and responding and calling and kids are yelling and I'm just shoveling the food in my face, I'm not even tasting it. I'm not even chewing it, right? Yeah. And because of that, we tend to overeat more. Studies actually show that, hands down, when you're present eating, you eat less. When you're not present and you're eating, you overeat.
That totally makes sense. And sometimes for me, when I'm eating, even just for those 10 minutes, I'll be like, oh, I can hurry and watch my favorite show on Netflix, or, you know, where it's
like, they show you eat more if you're watching TV and eating.
Where you're just like, even if it's whatever I'm eating, but then you're not paying attention to the actual chewing and swallowing and tasting. Like, actually,
and you're not listening to your body's response. Oh, I'm starting to feel full, or I'm actually stuffed now. Instead, it's like you finish the container, you look down, you're like, oh my gosh, I ate all that, and then usually within a few minutes, you're like, oh, I don't feel good. I ate too much.
Yeah, because you're not letting your body
respond.
Doesn't it take like 20 minutes?
It takes some time for your body to register, like, oh, I'm full. And so that's why eating slow and also chewing for digestion, all of those things are important. But being present is a big one that I think, and I know that's hard, because I was a zombie when my kids were both young.
But maybe if that was your one goal, like, starting today, I'm going to practice being present while I eat and focusing and, like, appreciating the food and what it's doing for my body. Or maybe for 1 week, or just try it and just do one thing.
Totally. You should make it, and that's one of the things that one of the myths, so I'll roll into that. That's such a good tip to do, because one of the other things that we do, especially as women, is we're an all or nothing mentality. I don't know if you fall into that category. I used to be so bad at this, where I'm just like, if I'm not changing everything, I'm not doing anything, because changing a little bit only shows a little bit of progress.
Especially with New Year's coming up and all the resolutions.
Yes, and everyone wants to do a full change, and that's totally fine. That's completely fine. You have to realize that more than 70 or is it almost 80 now % of people fail in their New Year's resolutions. I don't say that for you to be depressed. I say that so that we can acknowledge like what we're doing usually isn't working. And the reason is because they show when we change too much dramatically all at once, it usually doesn't stick as a habit and it doesn't stay consistent. We have like neural pathways in our brain that create habit loops, and it actually is very difficult for us to retrain habits. And that's why sometimes doing one thing, and it's called habit stacking, can help. So I teach my clients this often if they're struggling with a new program. Pick one goal for the week. Maybe it's being present while you're eating. Maybe it's drinking enough water. Maybe it's cutting out sugar, whatever it is, one thing. And you basically create that new one habit, and you usually have it with something else. So for example, if my habit was to have a healthy breakfast and I normally get up and just have coffee, my new habit will be stacking after my existing habit. Right after coffee, I'm going to make myself a healthy breakfast, and I'm going to do that every day this week. So now I'm creating a new habit on top of an old habit, and it's more likely to stick. They actually show people that just change one thing and habit stack each week are, I don't remember the exact stat, but it was, I think, more than 50% likely to keep the habit. So
wow.
It's amazing.
I've
so,
heard it takes like 21 days. Is that true? Like 3 weeks?
I don't know if it's exactly 21.
I
I don't know if it's exactly 21 days. I'd have to, because I love research. I'm like such a nerd. I read every article.
Look into that.
I read like every article, so I'll look into it. But I do know that it takes about 30 days for, I believe, a new habit, especially our neural pathways in our brain, to like change and shift our perspective and to shift. So stick with just like even one thing in the new year if you want. You know, just one
I have
program
the perfect
or one
plan.
thing.
So because we're in the holidays and there is amazing food and treats and all the things, try being present eating your food this next week.
Yes.
And then the next week adopt water and adding that into, and then that will get you right into the new year where you can be present and enjoy all the wonderful things that are happening right now.
Yeah, I love that.
And then you could build on it so that by the new year you can kick it off into something that will really make some changes.
Yes. And don't kill
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
I'm going to do that.
Don't kill yourself in the new year doing, I'm signing up for this class and this diet program and this one program. Don't sign up for 6 programs. You know, pick one thing and just give yourself some self-love and ability to work on it and to, you know, to have some slip-ups and work on it again and just focus on that for the month. Because if you're going to do 10 New Year's resolutions, I can tell you right now, you're just setting yourself up to be so hard on yourself, so hard on your body, so hard on yourself emotionally and mentally. And statistically, you're way more likely to not succeed anyway, which is just going to make you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah, that'll just kick you back into...
Have your goal be sleep. What a great
Ooh,
goal.
That's a good first one.
I know.
Sleep, being present, drinking water, and then into the new year.
And what's funny is I know a lot of people that might be rolling their eyes or thinking like, I've tried these things before, or this isn't going to work. But most of my clients that genuinely are like, hey, I actually like wrote this in my journal. I'm making this a priority. I've been focusing on sleep. I've been focusing, even just sleep and water and being present when you eat. I have tons of clients that start losing weight and they're like, how is that possible? I'm like, you're lowering your stress. You're treating your body well. You're nourishing it.
I love that.
Yeah, it's good.
That is really good. So,
okay.
What?
We're looking at our list.
We're looking everywhere.
We're looking at our list to see. Okay, real quickly, just so that we hit all 10 tips, I just wanted to briefly say you can't spot reduce. So one of the things women ask me, I know a lot of times we have problem areas like, oh, I wish I lost weight in my thighs or in my stomach or in my arms. Just be aware that you can't spot reduce, meaning you can't lose weight only in one spot. If you focus on quality nutrition, getting your hormones balanced, exercising moderately but efficiently, you'll lose weight everywhere in your body. And unfortunately, part of it is genetics. If you're designed to gain weight in your butt, it's probably going to be the last place you lose. Vice versa, a lot of women like, I gain weight everywhere evenly, but in my stomach I keep it the most. That's probably going to be one of the last places that you lose it. So just be aware of that. We talked about all or nothing mentality. We talked about hormones and carbs. I think we actually hit them all, you guys. We completely went out of order, and I know I rambled a lot, but I think we hit most of the tips.
So let me ask you this, because I know you have had workout nutrition programs for women in the past.
Yeah.
Do you still offer weight loss training programs in regards to fitness, or are you focusing mostly on hormone health?
So All of my programs now, and this really does come from years of experience and working. Now I've worked with, I think, over 3,000 women. So I've worked with so many clients and seeing what works. I actually don't have any program that I would call a weight loss program, but my Jumpstart, which is actually to do more with hormonal health and reducing inflammation, because inflammation affects our insulin level, which affects our estrogen and testosterone. Okay, I'm going to go off on a tangent again, which I don't want to do. But my Jumpstart, which is a 7-day nutrition plan, everyone loses weight on. So then they'll be like, you gave me the best weight loss program. I'm like, it's not a weight loss program, but it's more of a reduce inflammation. All of my programs are designed for women. So I promote, I have a bunch of random different programs, and I have a site that has workouts and stuff, but really I promote 3 products. I promote a full hormone balancing program, my Jumpstart, and my Love Yourself to Greater Health program. And those are really what I've transitioned to, because I feel like we have a problem with women not loving themselves or being unhealthy or being overweight and wanting to lose weight. And then our solutions are so often the wrong direction. Eat less, exercise more, mess your hormones up even more, hate your body along the process. It's awful. We're not getting to the root cause, right? Where you talk about Western medicine just covering it up. We're not getting to the root cause, and we're causing more problems. A lot of those women's then eventually their metabolism gets worse, their hormones get worse, their symptoms get worse. They become even more unhappy with their body. So my 3 programs are designed to work with the female body, to naturally balance our hormones, to naturally reduce inflammation, and to help us love our body and our life throughout the process.
Yeah. I love that.
Thanks.
Because that takes it to a different angle and a new perspective.
Yeah.
We have a comment from Jay, not hating by any means here, but have either of these 2 women ever been overweight in their lives? I'm hard pressed to take weight loss tips from someone that has never been overweight.
Well, that's a really good question.
I can tell you, I've gained like 80 pounds with each pregnancy, and I've been pregnant 4 times. So I don't know if you would consider that.
Well, I was actually overweight when I was younger. So it's funny, and I totally get that.
I do too.
I never get offended when people say that. What's interesting for me is, so I'm in my mid-30s now, and I've had 2 children, and I'm in better shape now than I was in my 20s. So I'm about 10 sizes smaller than I used to be. And before, I felt like I'm working out all the time. I remember I was doing body pump and running, and I thought I was, quote, eating healthy. But what I didn't realize was that I wasn't. I didn't have the knowledge that I had then about nutrition. I had no knowledge about hormones. So yes, I've been what I guess other people would consider overweight. I don't like to hate on my old body like that, because it helped me have kids, and it helped me get to where I'm at today. And so I like to coach people to like kind of love their body through the process of losing weight. So I'm not going to say I was fat. I was bigger than I am now.
Yeah. And I'm not the expert here, and I have gone through the roller coaster of carrying children and doing that, and it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think regardless of the journey that you have been in and where you're going and where you've been in the past, everyone is on their own journey. Yeah. And everyone's perspective of struggle is different, but we all have goals that we want to achieve.
And I don't only want to work with clients that feel like they're overweight. I have clients that are skinny that have terrible symptoms from hormonal imbalance, that feel like they have a short temper, and they're not sleeping at night, and they have extreme fatigue, and they never want to have sex with their husband. And just because somebody is skinny doesn't mean they're happy, and just because someone's overweight doesn't mean that they're unhappy. I instead want to help women just find the optimal hormonal health that they can find. And generally speaking, if we are overweight and our hormones are balanced and we're eating healthy, we are going to naturally lose a bit of weight just to come to a healthy body weight, and that's going to look different for everyone. That might be 10 sizes bigger than this. That might be 2 sizes smaller than this. It's going to be different for every woman. I want us to kind of embrace that, because we are all different, and I hate the comparison game. It just makes everyone loses, and it makes us all miserable.
Yeah, so. I agree with that. And it's interesting because even just last night, I had a really stressful day, and my poor husband, I wasn't being very rational. Like, I wanted some time alone in the bathroom. I was in the bath, and he was getting ready for the next morning because he was getting his like workout bag ready and doing these things, and I just wanted the door to stay shut. I just wanted to be alone, which Okay, so we had a thing. And for me, when I get upset, I don't cry, I get angry. And that has to be a hormone thing, right? Because
everyone's different, but I was super angry when my hormones were off.
So I'm like, super angry. I know I'm being irrational right now, but I just want the door to stay closed. Like, it was just one of those moments that, you know, as a mom, when everyone's like pulling on you all day long and like, you just need some peace.
You do.
So we need to chat because, girl, I had some anger going on last night. I wanted that bathroom door to stay closed.
Not to say that you'll never get angry when you're hormonal. Like, it's just funny. It's night and day for me. I was yelling at my kids a lot. And I just felt like everyone's like, you're a mom. That's what you do. You yell at your kids. Kids are terrible most of the time. And I was like, yeah. But then it was interesting. After months of working on naturally balancing my hormones, I noticed I was so much more patient with everyone. Like, I was like, wow, I'm not getting... Like, I remember getting so angry at these little things, and then I felt like, oh, like, so much more calm, better parenting. I was a lot calmer with my kids. I wasn't quick to yell over things that I realize now. Like, I'm looking back, and I'm like, that was kind of stupid of me to be yelling at them for that. Like, I would never do that now. And so it is crazy how, you know, depression and anxiety are also linked to hormonal imbalances. And I just feel like this is a topic that's not talked about enough in the industry of health and wellness, because it is one of the things that affect us physically, emotionally, mentally, and there's just not enough information out there of that.
So speaking of those tools and that information, how can we get our hands on your program to help?
Yeah, so for anybody that is interested in more information, I have those programs on my site, but I'm also going to give you guys a special link that you can share to your page.
It's in the description.
Perfect.
So right in the description, if you're wanting to know more information from Lynn on how to balance your hormones and to have better overall health, which will in return give you better overall health and weight goals and all of the things, you can follow that link and learn about all of the different programs.
If we want to send the links, then just put hormones in the comments and we'll go ahead and send you the link directly. But something to realize for my programs is that I worked with doctors, certified nutritionists. This is not me just being like, I had hormone problems and here you go. This is actually years of dedicated research from physicians, from nutritionists. This is all about balancing our hormones naturally. So it's getting us to fix the issues without medication. So you can do it even if you're not 100% sure which hormonal imbalance you have. You're like, I had all those symptoms you said, but I don't know if it's my thyroid or my adrenal gland. This actually balances our body completely, especially by reducing the inflammation. And in addition to that, it doesn't matter if you're breastfeeding, it doesn't matter if you're pregnant, it doesn't matter after you're pregnant. Everything I promote is completely natural, and I've had women that are pregnant that do my program, that are nursing doing my program. It really, it helps anybody.
So is it nutrition specific? Because if it's not dealing with any medications, then it must be what we're eating.
It is. So it's nutrition specific. I do have some guidelines if you do know what your hormonal imbalance is, specifically what to avoid and what to have, that can help you even more. So if you have been diagnosed, like if you know you have PCOS or PMDD or things like that. In addition, I have lists. Unfortunately, there are things like environmental toxins and certain things to do with exercise. So I kind of cover multiple components, but the largest being what we eat. And I do have a recommended supplement list that can help when I talk about things like how women are vitamin D deficient, or the benefits of omegas, or different supplements you can use, which I don't recommend anybody take supplements if they're pregnant or breastfeeding without talking to your doctor first. Even though they're natural supplements, you just never want to put anything in your body that can affect your baby without talking to your doctor. But I also have that in for all my female clients too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And quick question for the vitamin D3, do you suggest liquid form or pill?
Doesn't matter. The only thing you need to be aware of is some vitamin D3, the more expensive kind, will actually come like kind of like in a coconut oil, because it is fat soluble. What that means is your body's not going to process it unless you have some fats there. And so I don't care about the vitamin D3. For me, I'll be honest, I just go to the grocery store and get it. But if I do, then I make sure that I eat it with fat. And then I do have one that I order on Amazon sometimes that does have the coconut oil in it. So even if I took it on an empty stomach, or even if I took it and I was just eating berries, which does not have fat in it, then my body would still process it. So it depends on what you want. But that's like a really quick, easy, cheap tool for all of you women.
I need to do that. I need to do that. I have not been doing that. I'm always really good about taking multivitamins when I'm pregnant and nursing. But then when I'm not not. I just don't take medication in general. And so I just need to get back on that train.
Yeah, vitamin D3, it's so funny. I made that comment in one of my Facebook Lives a couple weeks ago, and I had a couple women reach out to me, and they're like, is this a miracle pill? Because within a week, I noticed that I'm not as depressed and I'm in a better mood. And I'm like,
wow.
A lot of women are vitamin D deficient, and it's a very inexpensive vitamin, and it can make a big impact and even can affect your weight loss. So,
especially if you live in a place with inversion or really tall city buildings, because then the sun is being blocked.
Yeah.
And so you're not getting access to the sun, which can lead to all of those deficiencies.
If you
and
live in
depression.
Hawaii, you're fine. If you live in Florida and you're outside all the time, you're fine.
Then let us come visit you.
Let me know.
We'll be good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If you guys have any more questions, please put them in the comments. We'd love to help you. Thank you for all of your comments, and thank you to Lynn. She's the expert.
Oh,
I am so grateful that you came today and
thanks for
shared
me.
your amazing knowledge with us. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.